that's planned.
And you're going back against the wall.
40. All right, everything's fine. What about you guys? Can you hear? And I've discovered that I think each one of you has a different idea about what happened and what's going on. I was kind of amazed there would be that many different kinds of interpretations of all of this. Some people thought the grids were already turned on and everything else. No, it's not. And so I just want to go over, we're going to spend a long time here, but I'll go over this to make sure, and then we can ask any questions if you're not clear. But this place was the last place that had to have an adjustment made. And what happened after that is that the grid went up and it formed more or less properly. But it's still not perfect. And I'll explain that in a minute. But it's functional. It's fully functional. And I guess what I'm about to explain is kind of important to understand, so you realize what's going on. It's functional enough to be able to turn it on. And then relative to this island, things are a little different here than they've been in like a Peruvian trip where we had lots of cooperation from everyone. Because this island has really lost almost all of its spiritual power. It still has a hold on it, and it's still there. It's still alive, and it will regenerate. But what took long periods of time to develop was destroyed. And so they weren't even really fully aware of what was going on here. Where almost everywhere else we went, they knew we were coming, and they invited us to come. And it was a whole different kind of thing. And here they kind of got it at the last moment. But at the same time, they do have intact within some of them and within this island, I believe that they do have intact the necessary spiritual information to continue. It's not really our business, but I will tell you one experience I had with Benito. And that's when that experience happened, then I knew, and also we knew then that there was that what we had done the day before was completed. So we did that thing that was not a ceremony, consciousness change to the correct grid, and Ross said yes, it's done right. But what happened the following, remember he also said it would be 24 hours before it's completed. And so during the next day, we were taken around to different places. And one of them we were taken to was the burial ground of the first king. Remember what we were working with was the ancestors. And so everybody's just running around doing things. And I was with a group of people, and Benito waited until he actually told them to leave. And then at one point, when I was alone with him, he whispered to me saying, I want to show you exactly where the king is buried, because they knew where it was, but they don't have any signs or anything. They don't say where it is. And he says, I want to show you exactly where it is. And so he told me precisely where it was. And then kind of wanted me to go over and connect with the king. And so I went over to that spot, and I stood there, and I went through a little internal thing that I do in common and we set up and this kind of stuff. And I've done this many times with other people at this kind of level. And usually when you do it, you open to it, and then it's a very slow process. Sometimes it might take 5 or 10 minutes before the connection. But when I opened it, he was there, just like that. It was just like he was like sitting like. Waiting to do this. That was a bam right there. And he went through a whole thing. It was a gratitude is very thankful for us to have come from all over the world to do this. And I listened to him and gave him our gratitude also. And then he receded away, but his energy was very strongly in my energy field. It was very, very strong. And so I walked away, and then Benito came up and kind of got me right away. And he said, "Did you make a connection?" And I said, "Yes, I did." And he was holding his hands like this. He opened his hand like this. And there was a ball of light, a sphere of light about this big glowing in his hand, off the surface of his hand. And it was very clear. And then he telepathically told me what to do. And so, which was to link with his hands like this, but not to touch his hands, but only connect with the sphere of light. And so I did. And then this energy went up here, right to my heart, right to his heart, and it just blinked. And then the energy, you know, call it the energy more than anything, of the king link went between the two of us. And that, I knew in that moment that the healing of the ancestors that we were doing was completing itself. It was done. But I also knew in that moment that they have a lot more understanding than they kind of show. It's very secret. Very, very secret. And so that side is done, but at the same time, when the grids go back up and they go into place, and even though now it's worldwide, it's prepared to be turned on, it is not perfect. It's organic, and it's still growing into that perfection. But as far as Melchizedek consciousness is concerned, we don't care. It's ready to be turned on. And that was the thing that so many levels of life had given up on, not too many years ago. Just 10 years ago or so, they thought that we didn't stand a chance. They thought the earth was going to die completely, all humans were going to go, and we would have to start over. But that isn't what because of the children coming in and a lot of other things, it has given us enough spiritual energy and power to be able to actually complete this grid. Like I said, it's not perfect, but it's good enough to turn on. And we also know from other levels of the cosmos that when you turn it on, it always works. In other words, once it's turned on, in fact, really once it gets to this level now, we made it. So the rest of life knows that at this point that we're like a baby just being born, but that we're not going to die. We're going to grow and become big and live and make it through the other levels. And so it's the celebration has already begun in other levels. And so we then go to Maria, but as for whatever the reasons or whatever, how or why or when doesn't even matter, we have a 24-hour window, very short period of time that is presented to us to do this in. And so that is the time that life is decided that has to be done, because that's how we got it. We have one day. We don't have 4 or 5 or 6 or 7. We have one day. It must be done on that day. And we'll do it. I know that part of it is pretty easy. That is the ceremony. And that ceremony is probably the more ceremonial-like. I don't know that for sure because they still haven't told me exactly how it is to be done. And once that's turned on, what that means then is that the window that Don Alejandro talks about, the time from the blue star that came in, to the time of the red star, the time of the open window, which they're still not sure how exactly how long that is, that in that time, everything changes. before this will be turned on, even today for that matter, if you go into your heart and try to dream a new dream, it has a certain power, but it really, truly is not very strong. You know, if you try to stop a war in Iraq or Palestine or any of these Israeli things or any of this kind of stuff, we don't have much power. You can function it on small levels, like with families and smaller levels, but big global levels, there's hardly anything there to be able to do it. Once this happens, then the doing level is pretty much done. And now it comes to the being level, the vibrational level. And now when you go into your hearts and you connect with the global consciousness of the new grid, when you begin to dream things of changes in the earth as they come through you, you suddenly are going to have tremendous power. It's no little thing anymore. This is a big thing, because now you're functioning from the next level of consciousness that you couldn't be functioning from until this is turned on. And so it's wherever you are in the world, doesn't matter. It makes no difference at all. The grid's always directly above you. And it's that connecting to that next level that, with the knowledge that you have, and a lot of other people have arrived at this in other ways. You know, the Tibetans have arrived at it in their ways. Many levels are coming to the same exact conclusion, though they have different techniques and things to get there, but it doesn't matter. And but just knowing that if you're in your heart and you begin to dream healing, if it comes out of the dreaming process, doing the same thing now and doing the same thing a week from now is completely different. Completely different. And you'll see, just like I was saying to someone else, you'll see it in the newspapers, on television. You'll see the changes begin to happen. It's like, wow, you know, just something people just came together and stopped fighting and things started happening. And this will continue through the next few years until it's gone. And as each thing is healed, as these things begin to be healed, then the geometries up there, the angles get perfect and more perfect, and there will come a time in the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years or so when there will come a day when that grid is flawless, absolutely flawless, it will be perfect. And at that point, by that time, the earth will be healed again. It will be back into balance. And then we can boogie. Then we can leave. And also during that time, you know, we've seen over the last 40 years or so the transformation. You go back 50 years ago, the kinds of things we're talking about now are it would be science fiction pretty much. And but now, as we're getting closer and closer, more and more people begin to understand what this is all about, and are beginning to live it and breathe it. But again, we're not the only ones. There's the people in the world that have been holding this in their hearts and their minds, and their bodies. And so soon, over the next, once we turn this on over the next few years, the corrections will begin to be made. More and more and more people will understand the grid, and the world will actually see transformation of the planet, huge transformation of the planet. There will be, and then it will be. And a lot of the old ways will just stop. Use force, because nobody's going to be connected to it anymore. And eventually come to this point that the minds talk about, and the light, and all these different people know that everyone knows there will be this time when we do link together and then make that transformation. Huge level. We can actually move into the next level of Earth's consciousness and begin the journey. We can't really begin the journey until we fix everything. And as we do, that grid gets perfect. And so, so there were people who thought that it was already been turned on. No, it hasn't. Not until we do whatever we have to do in later. And then there were those that thought, well, that's it. That's it. It's all over with. It's finished. Well, no, there's still more work. It has to be done. But indigenous tribes and certain people like you are going to be empowered. The shamanistic ceremonies will have great power, real true power. And so much so that you will see change, real change, begin to occur. And the more you see the changes happening, the faster they begin. And it's a catalyst, and pretty soon we're going to be living in a new world. You watch. You see. So that's all I really want to say. I just want to make sure we were all on the same page. We all understand what we're doing. Is there any questions about anything?
So once the grid is activated, and we're, in our hearts or using some intention, it's going to pick up in a week or a month or 6 months?
It'll be 24 hours after we do this. So we do this on the 9th, definitely by the 11th. When you go into your heart, you can now, it's a living thing, and it will have been born on Earth. And once it's born, then you can connect to it. So if you do exactly what you were doing before, only you're connected with that grid, which is now alive, then slowly your old way of perceiving starts fading away. And the new way starts, you really begin to get everything. It starts really coming in there. You really start getting strong. You rapidly go past the Dalai Lama, a lot of people like that. You begin to understand things that without any teaching or any workshops or anything at all, the heart knows everything. And so it all starts happening. But then your function, everything you've been training for in your life, now becomes super powerful.
Why did you say the 9th?
Well, that's when it happens. Today's the third. Well, wait, I thought it was the 9th. Today's the 3rd,
Yeah, it's the 3rd.
and we get there 13,200 years to create it, and it was strong enough in about 1989 for life to realize the potential. We have reached, as a fetus, you might say, we've reached a certain level of possibility that it was possible. But also at about that same time, it didn't look very good. And it's all changed. And now it's more than good. We know that once the grid's turned on, it always completes itself. It never has not, anywhere that we know. However, if it's not turned on, sometimes they don't make it. The planet dies. It's a little rare, but it actually looked like that might happen with us. But that's no longer even an option anymore. Yeah.
And is there still the paradox of the earth changes, even though the grid brings the earth in
The earth
balance?
changes, that's still going to happen.
It's still going to happen.
That is, Earth is messy. Doesn't mean it's a bad thing. No, the earth changes are great. They purify all that old stuff. So people like this living on this island, actually, it becomes a blessing. They'll see, because as the grid grows up, they would be able to change this island into whatever they dream. And those are intermediate steps, because eventually we get to this place where we go into another level of all of this, which is usually tied, I say usually because I don't know what Earth is going to do, but it's usually tied to the time of the actual pole shift, not the magnetic shift. The magnetic shift is like the emotional body of the Earth, and it always shifts first. emotionally, whoa, we're going to go for a change. But then the magnetic, and that's wherever that moves to, follow behind is that, just that bam. 20 hours is all it takes. And it's in a single day. Scientifically proven it. Less than 24 hours. You wake up one morning, suddenly you're one place on the earth, and a little while later you're sitting at the equator or something. You don't know. So.
Are there other groups right now that are involved in the turning on process? Or, I mean,
Not the turning on process, at least I'm not aware of any. Mother Nature very often has backups. She's really smart about things. I know some of the backups that she has done in the past. And there are things she has done, like they've taken human beings and put them in spaceships and put them in the other dimension so that even if it did wipe out, they could come back later and keep the DNA going. Usually about half male, half female. There's a lot of things that Mother Earth has done to ensure this. But as far as I know, this is being left to us.
Once we flip the switch and the grid is on and active, for as far as manifestation and healing work and all of that, is that something that will happen naturally, or is that something that we need to connect to the grid? How does that?
If you are living in your heart, it will be a natural process. You won't have to do a thing. It'll just happen. If you're living in your mind, it's somewhat of a process. For somebody that's working in the stock market in New York or somewhere, that's going to be a big transformation. It's going to blow their mind. For people, it's a spectrum. For some people, it'll be a lot harder. For other people, it'll be easier. And exactly how it's going to go, I can't tell you. I don't know for sure.
Mm-hmm. But so then everything comes back to that living in the heart.
That's one thing I can say is absolutely true. It totally depends on your ability to interpret everything that's going from your heart, not from your mind.
Behind you.
See?
I wanted to tell a story about some things which has happened on the plateau where the first king was born. Also a story about the king.
Do you want me to give her this?
I can hear.
You can hear? Oh, you got the other one? Okay, go ahead.
And the stone which has been laying on the top of a volcano when we were watching the stars, and the connection between that stone with a star, which will shift the dimension 4 into dimension 5 or even further, because that information was brought into that stone, that world images, the pictures that were imprinted in the stone. And I was instructed to get the stone and to bring to Moria, but as physically it was not possible, we did not manage to lift it up. I was asked in my heart to reverse the work and to bring the images of the new dimension into rods of other structure, which forms out of 3 people, and they will carry us to the other world. And the stone which I picked up from the plateau where the first king was buried, I have to let you know that it has been found on the very big rock where I was passing by, and my leg started to push very strongly that it was not standing in a proper place. I really had to move the stone away, and it was pretty big rock. I removed it away, and under was found a violet color amethyst, yes, nicely shaped and actually in form of heart. I will deliver it here. I felt in my heart that yesterday, for energy of the group, it would be perfect if everybody would touch it and would hold it. Some kind of spiral would have been created, and then it would come to a certain mandala drawing within the group. Today, it feels that it would be good enough if that stone could lay here and let us feel and see the information which has been brought there by some ancients ago, some time ago, by somebody to let the work to be accomplished. If you think that's smart.
Did you have a reading?
Yes, but it's
Okay.
so maybe afterwards.
Maybe when we get,
And
so those are gone.
I'm sorry, there's something also important to answer to your question. I know that Tom King is working in pyramids at the moment, also on the same thing with the group. And there are also other groups around who are doing kind of the same unity.
Well, there are a lot of groups that are working in the grids and have been for a long time. Goes back to about the middle of the 80s is when I started. And it went on for a long time, up to about 93 or so. It slowed way down. And then now it's been very, very selective. A few people. But this is what we're about to do now. This could only be done in Maya. Can only be done now. So, anyway. Any more questions? Or it's pretty quick.
What's the healing property or what characteristic of amethyst anyway?
It primarily functions on the pineal gland and the higher chakras. Actually, it's a pretty appropriate stone for what we're doing with this one.
She found it under boulder.
She moved this
She moved the
rock
boulder
to
from the.
form a wall. Move this thing over, and underneath there was a little amethyst crystal.
That's been, so it has all the ancient information inside of it?
I don't know if it was ancient, and I kind of don't think it was ancient because it's been tumbled.
Tumbled meaning
It's been polished. So, it's, but when, it could have been there for 50 years. I just hard to say. But, so you have it now? So she's going to set it there.
Can you show it to us?
Can you put it on
Let everybody see it.
Everybody of us is the energy. Us, everyone, there is, everything is energy, but we are spirits and we are creating some joy. Whenever we get together, we are becoming a mandala. So the stone also is a piece of energy, and how it divides its energy to make a perfect creation. That is actually what is the kind of task and target of our hearts, to make the perfect creation of love. And the stone is a helper, so energetically I would prefer to lay it, of course, up here to be seen for the cameras, but it does not let me, it does not pull me to be.
We can all just pile on it.
It's more about meditating together than
I love to talk. I don't know, but I think it became almost like competition at one point. I can't say that. Sometimes I'm told about stuff like that, but only pretty much on a need-to-know basis if I need to know something. I don't really need to know.
Thank you.
Is that it? Okay. You want to follow that stone?
Diane?